I sat everyone down and I walked out and I just said, "Hey guys," because my kids are older, right?
Family
So
meeting.
family meeting, I walked out and said, "I just want you all to know I hate making food." And everyone's eyes went to the side.
That's the way to open up a meeting. Hi, I'm Jen.
And I'm Suzanne. Today we are talking about the never-ending dinner struggle.
Oof.
Yes, to every mom out there who knows about the dinner struggle. So, just to be clear, I don't like cooking. I am one of those people who does not enjoy cooking. Growing up, you were our cooker. Because
I
mom
was the
did not
family
really.
chef.
Yes, you were. I was the sous chef who cleaned up. And I enjoyed that role. I was totally fine with that role. Mom did not enjoy cooking either. That was definitely like your jam. And when I got married, and especially when I had kids, that changed, right? Now, all of a sudden, I am the one who has to make dinner. And I've always found it extremely stressful. And I know I have friends that they love feeding people. That's their love language. I was going to say, yes, including
Me,
you.
me.
And I wish I was that way, but I've recognized this is not who I am.
I
And
will
that's
say
okay.
this. If your love language is feeding people, I'll say this for all the moms out there. Dinner is a whole other, it is not the same. It
It's
is
true.
not the same.
It's true. Well,
It's
and
just not.
I find it interesting too that this is something I've picked up. Like, no, at no point, and I have a husband who helps with all sorts of things. I have a husband that does laundry. I have a husband that cleans. Like, I'm super lucky in that regard. But when it comes to food, he doesn't feel any sort of obligation to make sure everyone's fed. I mean, maybe when the kids were a little bit younger, but for the most part, that completely falls 100% for me. And I
So,
remember
I was going to say, so this is so interesting to me because I've had this conversation with my husband. Did you assume that role naturally and then you decided you hated it? Like, did you think you should play that role so you just took it and then now you're kind of resentful? Or,
100%.
okay,
No, it was like societal expectations
for sure,
that's what moms do, right?
of
And that's
course.
mom's responsibility just among everything else. Like if you're a super mom, guess what? You're making sure, that your kids have all the meals and then God forbid they eat like a bad snack or something and then you're a terrible mom. I won't even we're sticking with dinner right now.
Okay, okay,
so,
okay.
so yes, I took it on. And to Greg's defense, my husband's defense, I definitely got bitter as time went on. And I've also been in all the variations of I was working and own the law firm, right? And so then it was like, hey, we're both working. This isn't a scenario. When this all came up, when we had kids, I was working. So it was never a scenario of you're a stay-at-home mom. Oh, and then I became a stay-at-home mom. And it was like the pressure was even worse because it was like, Suzanne, this is your sole job, is to make sure everyone's happy. And you know what I realized is I was equating feeding my children with happiness. And those are two wholly different things. So let me
With their
backtrack.
happiness?
Yes. So
Okay.
I, for example, would go to make something and my boys would independently be like, what are we having for dinner?
Mm-hmm.
And I'd look at them and be like, oh, we're having, thinking I'd made at least one of them happy in the story. But no, they'd be like, oh, I don't really want that today. Ew, I don't like that anymore. All the things.
All the
And then
things.
I would feel like a bad mom because
Because you weren't going to make them what they wanted or because you hadn't pleased them?
I hadn't
People pleaser.
pleased. Yes, I had not pleased them. And
But let me just stop you right there. Was it healthy and nutritious and you took time and you gave it your love and you planned it out and you shopped and you did all the things?
I did all the things. I'm not
Yeah.
always going to say it was always nutritious and healthy, but I did try to give my best shot.
No, but you know what I'm trying to. It was a home
Yes.
cooked meal that you
It's
put intent.
yes.
I guess my point is that you had intention with it
Yes. Yeah, and
to
I
be the
planned.
mom. Yes.
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 And the whole mental load that goes with planning it, going grocery shopping, then making it and doing all the things, because we know it's not simply what's for dinner.
It never is.
Yeah. So, but I found myself becoming exceedingly bitter about it. And most recently, I was talking to my oldest, and he's at a point where he's gone often for football training.
Mm-hmm.
And we have crazy hours. Anyone that has kids with competitive sports, like, it's just crazy hours. So now I'm trying to figure out, like, okay, well, how do I make this? And then this kid's hungry this time and my husband's hungry, like all the
Yeah.
things.
Everybody's
So,
schedules.
yes. And then he would be like, Mom, you never make any food for me anymore. And I'd be like, there's leftovers right there. I don't want leftovers. And to give him credit, for the most part, I had never had my kids do leftovers. Like, even if I
Sure.
did leftovers, I was making them making it a meal, right?
Yeah, sure.
So this is when I did something different, because I realized I was
Okay.
getting bitter with not only my family, but specifically the oldest, because he was the one, quote unquote, making me feel bad.
Of course he was victim.
Right? Yes.
Yes.
I mean, my victim was in full motion. And so I waited till the weekend.
Mm-hmm.
I sat everyone down and I walked out and I just said, hey guys, because my kids are older, right?
Family meeting.
Family meeting. I walked out and said, I just want you all to know I hate making food. And everyone's eyes were like this size.
That's the way to open up a meeting.
Of saucers. And I was like, okay.
And like, I'm sure they were like, where's this going?
What? And so, but like, that's how much like bitterness, like there wasn't even talking. It was just like, I want you all to know I hate making dinner.
Very business professional of you.
I was like, I make you guys breakfast before you leave. I'm not hungry at that point, so I don't have myself breakfast until 10:30. And then you want food. Like, I went through my whole diatribe about all the different times, and you guys won't eat leftovers. And you say you'll eat this, but you don't do it. And then it's like, if I'm not making you food, that somehow I'm a bad mom. And I said, and I realized that none of this is on you, because I haven't explained or taken the opportunity to explain to you guys all the different times I'm making meals, how much it takes to make meals, how asking them now as older kids to be like, can you help me? Like, can we work together as a family in this situation?
Yes.
As opposed to it all being on me. Because part of my victim, as what I discovered, was I was taking it all on, not talking to anyone about it.
Mm-mm.
And I feel like this is a really familiar theme we all have, especially as
Mom
moms
martyr.
and women. The mom martyr was out in full effect. And it's so unfair because I wasn't giving anyone an opportunity to help me. I mean, other than just complaining to my husband and bitching and being like, you never help with the food, da, 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 da. But it wasn't actually helping. And so this was just last week. So I go to the grocery store, and this entire week, I mean, I've made food, don't get me wrong, but no one has asked me what's for dinner. No one has asked me, like, if there's not something made, like they get home at whatever, 9:30 at night. And it's like, as opposed to being like, Mom, what's for dinner? Da, da, da. He actually just went into the fridge. He didn't know how to make something. So he said to me, hey, Mom, could you help me with this?
Sure.
It was so
totally fair.
So lovely. Because I told him, like, I don't expect you to know everything, but I expect you to start learning.
Yeah.
And it was amazing to me, the shift and how much better I felt this week.
Mm-hmm.
Because one, like that mom guilt that I had, it like dissipated because I finally shared why it was so hard for me and like what was going on. And two, as I've said a million times in my own life, is by being vulnerable and showing my kids like, hey, you guys are old enough now to understand these things. So instead of me resisting and getting so upset all the time and not giving you an opportunity, like here they are, they rose to the occasion and, put in the leftovers and did all the things. And so that shift and like, I feel so empowered now. And I'm probably more willing to make them meals at 9:30 at night than I was before when I was bitter Betty.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. And I would say that I think that shows up in a lot of places where we think people know everything that you're doing. Like, take anything. For your instance, it's dinner. Like, it's just dinner. But really, it's not just dinner. It's the mental load of not only one night, but like 5 to 7 nights, depending on the nights you're just like, you know what? We're going out to dinner because I can't deal with my life. And then there's a whole fight about, in my family, where are we going to go to dinner? Because one doesn't want to go to this place and one doesn't want to go to that place. And we always go to this place. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, it doesn't matter if you eat in or out. It's just, it's mayhem at dinner time. And I will say one thing that we did, and I don't know if you could try this with the boys, but during the summer or like kind of when they have like less going on, right? Obviously right now in like the prime of sports, it doesn't work. But during the summer, we make the kids plan. They have to choose a dinner, plan what night we're having it. They have to go grocery shopping for it, and they have to make it. And we clean up because that's the rule. If you make it, you don't have to clean up. But they have to do all that because they have to have like some, like speaking it into them, like what you did, and really explaining something is definitely helpful, right? Because they're like, oh, I didn't know you had to do all of that. And I didn't realize that like, it's not just me asking for it. It's my brother and my dad and, like how he realized that. But that has been, I'm not saying our dinners are delightful. We still have, like, let me be real clear. But we've tried to institute things that are like, you need to understand what it's like. So before you say, I don't like this, because now they've made a dinner and we'll say to them, what would it feel like right now if I said, I don't like this? I'm not eating this. What would that feel like in your heart? What would that feel like in your body?
This. I'm so stealing this. Yes. Yes.
And it's fun. And even if they do it a handful of times, it's a really cool exercise. And then they literally look at you like they are like, well, why wouldn't you like this amazing thing? I worked so hard and I went shopping and I planned, and you're all, yep.
Yeah. I love this.
So I think it also teaches them like we always say, this isn't made to order. Like, this isn't a restaurant, the made to order. But to your point, like, I set myself up for that as well. And I think most moms do, because especially, and I almost think you fall into it, to your point, because you're mostly in charge of of the baby, because you carry the milk, right? And then it's like they get to formula, but you're like in charge of the grocery shopping and all the snacks. And I'm not saying this is like every family, but it's almost like you just sort of like slide in there, and then it just keeps growing and growing and growing. And I love those reels that I always see. Like, I don't remember signing up for planning like on dinner 365 days a year. Because the truth is, we're planning Christmas dinner, and we're planning Easter lunch or brunch, and we're planning, like, regardless if you're making it or organizing it or booking the reservations, like you like the mom is responsible for not just dinner. We're only talking about dinner, but we all know we're responsible for all the things. So I think those are two really good ways.
Yeah, I like that. And I think too, for me, kind of the takeaways from the experience was, one, it's important for us to treat our kids, especially when they're older, like human beings. Like, the more I've been doing that, the better relationship I have with them, the more understanding I get from them, and the martyrdom starts to go away. And then I'm not as frustrated. I'm more open to it.
Because you feel seen and heard.
Yes, for sure. For sure.
Right? Like, even if they don't fully understand, you expressed.
Yes.
Not your frustration. I went a little bit with that opener. But you but you expressed like, this is a little bit like, this is what it entails, right? Because, and I think that happens a lot in like close relationships, because like it just always gets done, right? And I think we can do that to partners. I think we can do that to our kids where we like minimize what, the steps for them. So I think that also shows the kids like, hey, this is all the things. And then that makes them feel like, hey, mom, I have to do all these things for this science test. And then you're like, oh, I thought it was just study and take the test, right? And then they feel like they can say that to you. And then there's just better understanding. So I didn't mean to jump in on your takeaways, but.
No. And then the second one is, and I think this is a big one for me, is not to confuse giving them a nutritious meal with making them happy. Because that's something I set myself up for. Like, here I am thinking.
Because happy kids equals people pleasing equals good mom.
Exactly. So
I would just make those jumps there, right? Like,
but I also think it's that shift that we've talked about, having that like thing that's in your brain ready to go. And so for me, it's now when I'm making the meal, it's you're a good mom because you're making your kids a meal.
Yes, they have the opportunity to eat it.
Yes. And therefore, like honest and just, I don't know, having that kind of in my head, because then I'm not looking for them, like you get your dog ears up, like, do they like it? Do they like it? And then it's like, and your little ears go down. And it's like you set yourself up for them being like, no, this is gross. I don't want this. And so instead just being like, here's a meal. You're welcome.
You're welcome.
Moving on.
Yes,
so
I love it.
Those are my takeaways.
I love that. So I think the question for our listener would be, what is one small shift you could make to take the load off of dinner? And we're just going to call it dinner because every mom knows that is a loaded word. Dads, if you're listening, you need to go talk to your wife immediately. You are going to be the most favorite person that has ever walked up to her if you start talking to her about dinner.
Yes, 100%.
Well, that's it for today.
We hope you discovered something in my story.
See you next time. Same place, same sisterhood.
Bye.
Bye.